Welcome to today's edition of 3 Minutes of Halacha. Today I want to address the question of the paragraph of Vayichulu Hashamayim Va'aretz, which we recite immediately after concluding the Amidah on Friday night. Why do we say it, and what is its purpose? The Gemara in Shabbos talks about two different reasons why we say it, Vayichulu. On Tav Kuf Yud Tet Amud Bet, the first reason is offered that if a person says Vayichulu on Friday night, they become a partner, a shutaf, with God in the creation of the world. The second reason is that if a person says Vayichulu on Friday night, the two malachim, the two ministering angels that accompany a person throughout Shabbos, also place their hands upon his head, and they recite V'sar avonecha v'chatatcha mechupar, that you are forgiven from all of your sins. This emphasis on saying Vayichulu is the reason why we say it more than just within the Shmoneh Esrei. Because actually the Amidah of Friday night is the real place for Vayichulu to be recited. However, on Friday nights, which also coincide with Yom Tov, we don't say Vayichulu in the Amidah. And therefore, Chazal established that we should also say it a second time afterwards, just to make sure that we're able to recite it. The third time we say it is at Kiddush on Friday night, and the reason there is for those members of the family who were not in shul to say it in Mariv or after Mariv, and therefore they also hear this idea of Vayichulu Hashamayim Va'aretz. However, there are other reasons which we say it. One is, again, for a person who is unable to daven. And so that second recitation right after the Amidah is L'hotzia mi she'eino yodea, is to help the people who couldn't say the Shmoneh Esrei on their own, something that is a bit of a rarity nowadays, that we have Sidurim, and we also have Sidurim that are translated into English. However, yet another reason, which has a direct impact on our situation today, is because it's an element of testimony, and the ideal form of testimony, or in the words of the poskim, Mivchar ha'edut, is to be able to give that testimony in public and in a loud voice. And therefore, we say Vayichulu together when we're with a minyan. That's the public recitation. If someone takes too long to daven and they're still with the minyan, the custom has developed that they find somebody else, because witnesses always come in pairs. And therefore you find someone else who recite Vayichulu together with the other person. You're still serving as a witness. Nevertheless, the Taz points out that if a person is davening on their own, that they don't say Vayichulu the second time. The Mishnah Berurah, however, notes that it's permitted to say it as if we're just reading the Torah, and he suggests doing that, while Sfardim do allow a person to say Vayichulu by themselves in a normal fashion. Interestingly, the Chazon Ish did not require a person who was davening with a minyan but had a longer Shmoneh Esrei and missed being able to say Vayichulu with everyone else to find a second person. He allowed that person to say it all by himself. This idea of testifying that we are part of God's creation and part and parcel with God in creating is also the reason why Vayichulu is said while standing, because all testimony that was delivered in a court was done as part of a testimony. And its importance is also the reason for an answer that was given by the Tzitz Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer Waldenberg, for a person who had a long Amidah on Friday night. See, within the Amidah we say Vayichulu. What would happen if the person would just be reaching Vayichulu in his Amidah while the rest of the congregation was saying it as well? Said Rabbi Eliezer Waldenberg that it is permitted for him to say it together with everyone else and then continue from the end of Vayichulu to complete his Amidah. Again, if a person was already done, and in the final concluding paragraph of Elokai Natzor, you're allowed to say Vayichulu at that point as well. Vayichulu has three reasons why we repeat it a second time. One is because there's a special mitzvah to say it in public, to proclaim that we are partners with God's creation. Two is because of the Shabbatot that coincide with Yom Tov. And three is to make sure that a person who can't daven would be able to hear those words of Vayichulu. The Vayichulu we say is so very important. And unfortunately, nowadays, when we're davening by ourselves, we only are able to, as Ashkenazim, to say it like we're learning Torah, soon we'll be back in shul with a minyan and be able to say it in its normal fashion.